Welcome back. It's a retaining wall day, or really weeks, but obviously this will be one video. So we've already done the dirt work. So I have a trench and the steps that are going to be in the retaining wall are already roughed out. So today we're going to build it. First is going to be getting some base course in this. I'm opting with kind of the typical method. I'll be putting in a base course, which I'm using crushed concrete. An alternative method, I've talked to friends that just depend on preference and timeline, is you could build forms in here and then pour concrete and have a concrete base. And the advantage with that is, since you level your forms, you just float on top of those forms and you have level concrete to put your block on, so you don't have to like spend all that time manually adjusting every block to get it level. The first course is what takes the longest, but I'm gonna use the crushed concrete, hand tamp it, and show you how to start with your level course, and after that it speeds up a lot. I might shovel in just to establish the baseline. I will start using the tractor to dump the rock, but I've got to get it kind of at the right height first. So I've got my laser transit set, and I'm still way low. I'm just doing it by hand to kind of establish my level, and then bucket. All right, so because this is part of a much bigger build, I'm using the laser transit, which I could pull off other references to get this at the right height, because I dug this with reference to other things. If it was freestanding, it doesn't really matter, and you could probably just measure off the bottom of your trench to get depth. Really want 3 to 4 inches or more of base course. Anyway, the transit was just to help me get to the right level, and now I'll use an actual level to keep me level as we go. And we look pretty dang good, close enough to start laying block. But this isn't very big, so I'll probably, now that I have an idea of the level, go a little farther before I start laying the block. You could do this in stages and do all of the base course and then all the block. Doing most of it by hand, I kind of like to take it in little steps, so I'm not doing the same task too repetitively, and I give my muscles a break and mix up what I'm doing. Cool. So we've got a good little stretch here tamped down and pretty close to level. I have some fines, some spoil here ready to help level, and a set of blocks. Now, if you're going to go perfectly straight, snapping a string line would be really helpful. This part's actually going to be a curve. I could mark it out. I'm just going to eyeball it. One thing to note though is these are all a little bit different. So what you want to line up is the back, because that's what is going to determine how all the next blocks stop, not the front. The front's going to be a nice uneven pattern. So don't worry about lining up the front, worry about keeping the back straight or in the curve or whatever you're doing. It's gonna look fine. So yeah, now we just adjust them till they're level and in a line or in the curve you want. All right, that's all the talkie. Wish I had a torpedo level.
You should what?
Torpedo level. I think I've got one somewhere, I just don't know where. So obviously I did a little bit off camera. Just like I set the first block, I set the rest, and then I went ahead and backfilled a little bit with the rest of the crushed stone. It kind of looked like that, and then I just made sure it was all around it. And then the next level, and actually, so using just the fines from the crushed concrete didn't really work well, so I got a big pile of sand, and I moved a little pile here because the sand lays out better. So instead of like trying to shake them in position, I'd put sand down and then do like that to make it level with the torpedo I found. It has taken a little bit of time, you can probably tell because I changed my shirt and hat. Here's what the next steps are gonna look like, you're gonna see. So on the native soil, I do some, what's that called? Behind the native soil, I use some geotextile fabric, and this is just a separator so that when the water comes, it doesn't wash all this clay into the rock, and then the rock won't drain. It's just rocky soil. So you need some separation, and we have the drainage rock and the drainage tile, which is just a 4-inch perf pipe, so it has a bunch of little slots in it. So as the rain comes down and it settles through the rock, it can make its way to the pipe, and then the pipe gives it path of least resistance to flow out from behind the wall. That's how we prevent hydrostatic pressure buildup, which is the main reason why retaining walls collapse. Now here you can really see the drainage rock area. Right now I have about 24 inches here. 12 inches is really the minimum for safety. I went with 24 because 12 inches of soil is about how much eroded between the time I excavated and finally got to working on this. But yeah, time to pull out the soil or the fabric, lay it out on the soil, and start doing some more backfilling and lay more block.
You can make this too if you have a tractor.
So there is a method to my madness here. Of course, use a tractor to dump rock because that's a lot faster and easier, and then use a shovel to kind of level it out. And I'm trying to establish a little bit of a grade. I'm not going to shoot grade and check level. I'm not that finicky. But basically, notice it's a little higher here. I have a drain in the middle, and the pipe does slope down to that. But it's going to be at ground level over there, so I'm just trying to gently slope it easily all the way over. Now, if I have a few little low spots where a ½ inch of water might sit in this pipe, I'm not concerned about it. It's not going to be a hazard. You do need to make sure the water does actually flow downhill and drain. You might think, well, the water will just come out, but where it really can become a hazard is in winter when things do tend to be a lot really wet. If you have a place where the pipe dips and fills up and creates like a trap and that freezes and expands, one, you might crack your pipe, which can be a problem. And the other is basically you just have an obstacle now, and until that thing that's buried in all your rock thaws out, that pipe isn't going to be able to carry water out through like it should, and you can have a hydrostatic pressure buildup, which I don't know if I defined that. Basically, that's the horizontal pressure that water can exert when it's piled up because it doesn't really have structure and tends to just sploosh. It's not just the weight of it bearing down, it's also trying to push, so it pushes out. So it needs to be able to flow downhill, and we also want to make sure it doesn't have any traps that can become fully stuck. Like if this isn't perfectly graded and I do have those little places that might be a little low and a little bit of water sits in the pipe, no big deal, as long as it's not the whole pipe. Anyway, I'm going to lay my course of block and then set the pipe because those blocks have that little lip that needs to line up on the back. So now actually what I'll do is set this course here, put rock between all the blocks, and then do the next course. Because if I just put my pipe here now, watch yourself. When I come and dump all the pipe or all the rock here, what's gonna happen is this pipe is gonna get wedged and I'm not gonna be able to get my next row, and I'll be crushing and shoving this pipe. So I wanna do 2 more rows of block ideally before I set this pipe in. Just a technique. Yeah, I kind of enjoy this, but it is a little bit like getting kicked in the repeatedly.
It's not so much that I'm tired and sweaty, it's just the passion leaking out of my body. You want to hear the most annoying sound on earth? All right, so figured probably take a break, talk about what's going on a little bit. Just been building up all of my levels as we go, and everything's looking good. All the blocks are staying pretty level. Just working in this stair area, which is where things start to get funky. Of course, I need to curve them in. Fortunately, we kind of have an example right above me of what we're going for. But to work with the flow, I'm going to have a tighter radius curve coming off this straight wall. Whereas over here, I have more curves, so I thought more of a sweeping curve would work. So I'm just curving these a little slower. It's really easy. I just have been building up the rock as I go. Like you can kind of see, I just build the rock and tamp it down so that it's level with the block I'm building on, and then place the blocks in a curve till they curve how I want the curve to be. Don't know what else to say. These steps I am doing a little bit different than I did the steps up there, which I didn't record. And that is what I did is I just tamped all the rock and then set the first course on the rock. Then I realized that doesn't really lead for a very stable rock because there's nothing, there isn't much that's really holding each layer of step against any of the lateral forces, except for the capstone against that first layer. That's all there is. So on this one, I'm doing the first layer of step at the same level as the top layer of the step in front of it. You see block here, block there. So that way I have more of the step that's kind of captured underneath. To make that easier, what I'm doing is this. To make that easier, this is the first course of this step that'll be exposed, and I'll have one more course. So I stopped here and I leveled everything off, and I'll build this first course, build the course behind it, and make sure everything's level. But I already used my level and kind of screeded this sand and tamped it down. Doing the sand on the 57 has worked really well to kind of make a nice level surface. And then we'll just build as we go and probably do a little montage, more time lapse of dropping rock and laying block. Dropping rock and laying block. Dropping rock, laying block. Dropping rock and laying block and laying block. Dropping rock and laying block. Dropping rock, laying block. I'm gonna talk again a little bit real quick. So working with multiple courses here, it's important to keep in mind just what you're doing and how you're working. For example, this block is at a level, the back is really high. And typically, things don't matter. You know, I'll use my mallet and work down the high spots to make them lower. So we're gonna understand this a lot easier than trying to lift up the low spots. But when I check to make sure that the back is level with the front course, we're really close, and I'm resting on the back. So if I tap the back of this down to make this block level, it'll be too low and I'll have to raise the whole thing. So instead, I'm gonna work on raising the front, and the back needs to go down a little bit to balance things out. So we'll tap down the back a little bit, then work on raising the front, but yeah. Hey, why don't you come get a close-up of this one? It's actually level, I'm not just pretending. That's why I don't often record the first time doing things, because no one would watch my videos. The hidden base course for the next step in, nice and level and in line with the level in front of it. So we're gonna mix things up a little bit. No, pretty much we started this video by dropping rock and then laying some block. This time we've laid block, so now we're gonna drop rock. But then lay more block. And remember, this is like educational quasi family, not adult, so you don't get points for leaving in all my heavy breathing. Please take that out. I was doing some editing and realized the levels weren't quite right on my audio, so sorry, but you're probably busy complaining about the music anyway. Here's where we are. What's left is gonna be putting on the capstones. I'm gonna do some RGB LED lights in a lot of this. So the next video on this will be doing those and leveling this out. So I'm gonna do some paver stones on the stair treads and everything. And honestly, I'm probably just not gonna get to it for quite a while. And I wanna get this video wrapped up. So there we have it. I guess I'll catch you in the next video. And if you're the kind of person who likes to like, comment, subscribe, even share the videos, super thank you for doing that. It really helps a lot. Otherwise, just thank you for watching and joining this process. Hope you learned something, were inspired, or at least maybe a little entertained. Until next time, make time to make something. I think I might just sit here and drink some water. For a comically long time, apparently.